ready to get this season started?
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
Let's go. Indy Next by Firestone. It's ready to go for a new racing season. We're green again. Indy Next by Firestone. Time to go. And he might be 2 for 1. Foster gets turned around. What a move. Side by side. 3 wide. Heading down to the chicane. He's cutting into it. Here he comes. It is tight in this section. Can he hang on to it? Indy Next is now.
Decision for Indy Next by Firestone. Our race 1 winner, Nolan Siegel, still sits on pit lane. He is yet to go out. A couple of installation laps. Christian Vogel making his way back into pit lane. Also, Miles Rowe have already done their first lap. A couple of the takers already completing their first laps and on to get up to speed. And behind me, you hear that sound is Nolan Siegel leaving pit lane. But as you said, Nick Hillman, a beautiful day here at Barber Motorsports Park. Ambient temperature 82. It was a little bit cloudy and the sun peeked behind the clouds momentarily, but now it is bright and sunny. Track temperature 120 degrees ambient. And obviously, Nick, from your vantage point here at Barber Motorsports Park, you can see the 4 layers of racetrack. But from pit lane, you can certainly see Charlotte's Web, part of the back straightaway, and this bad fast front straightaway that goes down into the Alabama roller coaster. We always look forward to coming to Barber Motorsports Park. It is truly one of the crown jewels in our 2024 campaign.
Yeah, the big picture-perfect blue skies, the green grass around the fabulous grounds here. I know it becomes cliche. We say it every single year, Davey, but we cannot stress enough. Just driving, on the long drive into the facility here at Barber Motorsports Park, you can just feel with the tree lines and everything immaculately well kept. This is a special gem of a racetrack, and it's one I think we all kind of circle on the calendar.
Yeah, another thing that's great about this is all the art that they have here. Yep. I mean, every year I look for something different, whether it's the spiders or the Coke cans, the monster, whatever it is, down in the part of the racetrack, actually down there in turn 10 and 11. So great facility, as you said. By the way, the world's largest motorcycle museum, the world's largest Lotus car museum on the facility here as well. And it's beautiful inside there. I mean, they do such a great job manicuring this grounds and making such a fun event. But nothing, go in town, watching news this morning. They advertise this a lot. It's on all the news broadcasts. I drove around last night, see several businesses with IndyCar posters and stuff out in their yards.
Billboards, I saw billboards as well.
It's really good. So what a great job they do at this event.
One of the things I noticed driving in is a lot of cars in the city of Birmingham that had like the specific Barber Motorsports Park license plate.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Clearly,
Yeah.
The area here has really put their arms around this racetrack, and I don't think it takes very long to do that. You visit this place one time, and it's hard not to walk away.
Yeah, exactly. And Mitch Barber, I mean, he has a passion for motorsports. He has a passion for motorcycles, especially. Built this race course for motorcycles, but how about for the children of Indiana? I mean, helping them out as well. I mean, he's a true Alabama, and it's fun to come. As you said, it's great to have this on our schedule, and then only continues to stay on there. Every year, the crowds get bigger. As we look across right now in this practice session, the first one for Indy Next, and underneath the trees of the shade across the straightaway, it's people lined up along that hillside watching this first practice.
Plenty of drivers getting after it here early in this practice session. James Rowe, the fastest of the 21. It is the same 21 that raced at St. Petersburg. So good, Davey, to see such a large field of cars. Of course, kind of tip the cap to the HMD Armada. They've got 10. But Andretti Global, Andretti Cape, the Abel Motorsports Group, Miller Vinatieri Motorsports, Juncos. I mean, it's an impressive group of drivers, and good to see everybody back for a second round.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for HMD to have that many cars, it's just, people don't realize how much work that is to have that many cars in the field to get crew guys. By the way, their shop's open. That's up and going. They have a shop in Brownsburg that actually from Abel Motorsports did all the work on that previous Marsh grocery store, and it's absolutely spotless. Looks like a hospital in there. The floors are painted, super organized. It's a fabulous shop there in Brownsburg, Indiana, and that helps to be organized to run 10 cars for sure.
Watching two pretty good ones. Head down to Charlotte's Web. Louis Foster, fresh off of a podium finish at St. Petersburg. And he's got Michael D'Orlando, who was the one newcomer that finished in the top 5 at St. Petersburg. He brought home that Andretti Cape car to a 4th place finish ahead of Reese Gold, who rounded out the top 5 against Siegel, Abel, and Foster were the podium. But we see Louis Foster navigating that downhill portion in front of the museum. With all the experience that he's got, Davey, we look at him as a championship contender. No surprise that he's getting after it here early in practice.
Yeah, that Andretti car, obviously, he loves that team and has a lot of confidence in him. Obviously, he has what it takes to win races. This racetrack, one thing that's different, that even if your car is perfect here as a driver, it's very high commitment. These corners are very high risk. You're on the edge on majority of this racetrack. It's not easy to be fast on this race course. Like I say, even if your race car is perfect, and if you don't have a good race car, it's even that much harder. So, most of these teams came here and tested. They kind of know what they have. It doesn't surprise me that they go out there and lay some quick laps down right off, but everybody's going to do it. And who knows? Right now, Rowe, that's a good run. Abel second, Pearson third, and Murthy. Yeah, I got to get that back again, but he's doing a really good job as well.
Yeah, driving for Abel Motorsports, units that are Murthy 4th quick right now. Just got bumped to 5th as Reese Gold has found some speed. But we watched Michael D'Orlando heading in to Charlotte's Web, and David, I thought he did a really good job at St. Pete. I know it was, many weeks ago, but to remind folks, that was kind of a last-minute deal to put him in that race car. He impressed us right away, top 5 in practice all weekend long, comes away with a top 5 finish, and good to see him back in the car, because there was certainly some question about his full season effort.
Yeah, I'm not even sure where that still stands today. It's good to see him here. I don't know if it's just for here and if it's one race at a time, but if he continues to run up front, I'd have to think that team wants to keep him in that car, or hopefully, better yet, it helps everybody. Some sponsorship comes along.
Let's go back to pit lane. Michael Young, 38 minutes into this practice session. Everybody looking up at Jacob Abel.
Yeah, everybody out on track with the exception of Callum Hedge. The Kiwi sits on pit lane. Looks like they may have a battery issue. Certainly something in the electronics, and they have been fiddling with the battery. So that keeps Callum sitting here on pit lane. Again, 50-minute session, so not losing valuable time in this fix. Not really a long one, but hopefully that is indeed what the problem is with the number 17 HMD Motorsport cars. Callum Hedge again sits here on pit lane.
Yeah, the good news for all of these drivers is even if you do have some issues, you are going to get a full practice session number 2 tomorrow morning at 11:05 Eastern time. These drivers in Indy next by Firestone go qualifying at 2:35 Eastern on Saturday, and then they will go racing at 11 o'clock Eastern time. You can catch live flag-to-flag coverage right here on IndyCar Radio on Sunday, right before the NTT IndyCar Series event. Jacob Abel making his way around the racetrack, heading through the final couple corners of turns 16 and 17 back on the front straightaway. And David, let's talk a little bit about this racetrack. 2.3 miles in length. A lot of elevation, a lot of high-speed commitment corners. And when you talk about G-forces, I'm not sure there's a track on the schedule where you can feel them more than a place like Barber.
Yeah, well, it's going to start right with turn 1. You come down this front straightaway, Nick, and that left-hander going down into turn 1, super high speed. You want to, you feel like you really need to lift on that 90-degree corner, but it is a high-speed, high-momentum corner going down into turn 1. And then turn 2 is almost like a big oval corner, but to the right hand, so to the left. But it's at the base of a hill. As you crest up over that hill into turn 3, on top of it at turn 4 where you crest, the car's kind of light right there, and it's a high commitment. We see a lot of passing there, a lot of mistakes, cars sliding off there. Then you go on our next straightaway. which is probably one of the best passing zones, if not the best passing zone. Go down to turn 5 and that hairpin going back through 6, 7. When you get to 8, same thing. You're gonna, it's heavy commitment, high speed going to that right-hander, and do it a little left, a little right, blind, because you're dropping off hill into turn 9. Turn 9 important again to where you try to get that momentum, try to get on that throttle quick down the back straightaway. But it's just not a straightaway. It's turn 10 and 11. The key, these cars go through, they're wide open if you have it right. And then go down into 12 and 13. That's the most high commitment, the most difficult, probably the most difficult course I think on any of the courses we go to, because you drop down into a dip and then you're going over a rise, which it really loads the car, then unloads the car. It's blind, you can't see the exit, and then you go into another long right-hand corner to 15, 16, and then back to the straightaway turn 17. So 17 corners on this fairly short track keeps it busy.
So just saw James Rowe, who's been one of the faster drivers in this practice session. He got a little wide at the exit of the portion of the racetrack we call Charlotte's Web, Davey, because of the gigantic spider statue down there. Back end just hangs out. Those drivers like to take those cars as wide as possible exiting that corner. Rowe just got a little extra wide.
Just a little extra wide. It's easy. You really tried to pick the throttle up quick there, because this is going into a passing zone, and that's where you don't want to. You want to be fast on any exit going into passing zone, as we see him a little bit sideways going down through 15.
Yeah, needless to say, back into that car, hanging out a little bit there the last couple of corners. But again, James Rowe, the Irishman, has shown some speed at a minute 13.398. That last lap was down at about a minute 17, so those mistakes certainly hurt him. But that car, Grander Eddie Global, appears to be fast, as is the car right behind him. Miles Rowe making his way around the Alabama roller coaster, sitting 7th quick right now. Everybody chasing Jacob Abel. His car sits on pit lane, and that's where we will go to check in once again with Michael Young.
I was just looking out of the front straightaway and saw Christian Vogel bouncing up and down as he got off track coming down this front straightaway, updating Nolan Siegel's progress as they start to check off some boxes through this first practice session. As Nolan Siegel came in, and they went from some scuff firestones to another set of scuff firestones. So starting to get some of these race tires dialed in is the machine of Nolan Siegel. And as you said, we see Jacob Abel. Jacob just hit his mark, sits in front of that Abel Motorsports pit crew. They sit on pit lane. They're going to work on the front end. We'll get an update for you momentarily.
Michael mentioned the championship leader, Jacob Abel. He has turned just 2 laps in this practice session, either one of them at speed. So he's kind of going the slow approach of getting those practice laps under his belt. Earlier today, Michael Young had a chance to catch up with the driver who not only won at St. Petersburg, but has spent the last couple weeks driving in the NTT IndyCar Series.
Now with Nolan Siegel getting ready for the return to the Indy Next car, and it has been a hot minute since you've been inside the cockpit of that machine, and you've done a lot of driving outside of the Indy Next car. So talk about your time off. You did a lot with the NTT IndyCar Series and getting back in this weekend. That's a lot to answer in one thought.
Yes. It's been great to get the IndyCar experience, but I'm really excited to be back in Indy Next, and especially after St. Pete. I haven't driven the car since St. Pete, haven't been back with the team since St. Pete, and I'm really excited to be back with the HMD guys and girls, and back in the next car. I think it's going to be really fun, and good to take everything that I've learned in my time in the IndyCar and translate it to the next car.
Can you translate it to the next car? If so, what have you learned that was applicable from an NTT IndyCar car to your Indy Next car?
I think the biggest thing is not necessarily a raw driving thing, but I think that in IndyCar it's extremely important to extract everything out of the tire immediately, and you don't get many chances in IndyCar. You get a lot less chances, especially in qualifying, to do a lap than you do in Next. And I think being able to extract everything out of the car quickly and efficiently is going to be beneficial for me in Next.
What was the aha moment for you in the IndyCar that you're like, oh, that's going to work really well driving in Indy Next? Was there a moment like that?
I wouldn't say there was one specific moment like that, but everything is just more difficult, higher pressure, and you have less time to think and adapt in IndyCar than you do in Next. So I think adapting quickly and staying in that mindset where you have to get it done now is going to be big.
And of course, your thoughts of coming back to this beautiful facility. It's so unique and so one of a kind on our schedule, on the calendar. Just driving here at Barber.
Yeah, I love Barber. It's one of my favorite events of the year. Like I've said before, I think qualifying is the best session here. Doing a qualifying lap on low fuel, new tires, in the big high speed, long duration corners with so much elevation change. It's super fun to drive and really excited for that.
Good luck. Hopefully you get 2 for 2 here. We wish you all the best all weekend long.
Thank you.
That's Nolan Siegel, of course, winner at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg for Indy Next, trying to back it up with another win here this week.
And so far in practice for Nolan Siegel, where is he? 7th. He has bumped it up. He's now turned 5 laps in car number 39 for HMD Motorsports, and his quick lap now at a minute 13.899 trails only the fast 6. Jacob Abel, Kyle Collette, James Rowe, Reese Gold, Louis Foster, and Josh Pearson, the 6 drivers faster than Nolan Siegel. And David, to put a bow on that, obviously Nolan Siegel is very talented. We've had a chance to see that up close and personal over the last year and a half of him racing in Indy Next. But how difficult do you think that the last month has been for him, kind of bouncing back and forth? Because it's kind of unique. I can't remember any driver in recent years kind of bouncing back and forth, doing both. What an opportunity.
We're very fortunate to be able to do that. Right now, he's not cutting a really good lap because he's right, he's trailing, trying to pass the car, which he's going to do right now.
That's Lindsay Brewer.
Yeah, that's Lindsay. Yeah, it got by her. Now he's able, this lap won't be a good one, but the next one should be. But what an opportunity for this kid, because once you get out of an Indy car and you back up into a slower car or something, just a little different, it's going to be slower, makes it feel easier because you went just so fast in an Indy car. You're, as he said, you're trying to get the most out of it quickly with those tires. There's those things will transfer over into Indy Next. I feel like he could have a really good weekend this weekend, just having that experience from the Indy car.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk with him a little bit as well. He came away with a 20th place finish at Long Beach in his official points paying debut. Also ran in that race at Thermal, the All-Star race. But for Nolan Siegel, I thought he did a pretty good job, especially the closing laps, David, because the way that IndyCar race played out, you had Newgarden and Dixon, and they were catching the lap cars, and Nolan Siegel was one of those, and I thought he did a good job of managing his space and not playing into that.
Yeah, the best thing is he finished the race. That's key. As a rookie, that's what you want to do. So that's very, very key, just to finish the race, get all the laps in, and get that education.
But we are a third of the way through this first practice session. Jacob Abel is the fastest so far. He has turned 8 laps in this practice session for Indy Next by Firestone. I'm Nick Yeoman. Davey Hamilton is in the booth with us. And for more on Jacob Abel, who sits on pit lane, let's go to Michael Young.
It didn't look like there was going to be a lot of adjusting going on to Jacob Abel's car. They actually put a little front wing into that car to give him some forward bite. And just before they sent him out, the side pump came off on the left side. They got underneath that air filter, the radiator, and they changed the filter. So whatever it was with that filter, they got a new one in there. They're buttoning everything back up, get some zip ties on to make sure that stays nice and tight, and they will send Jacob Abel back out momentarily. But again, a little housekeeping on this number 51 car for Abel Motorsports.
Davey, you mentioned about a minute ago, Nolan Siegel got held up a bit by Lindsay Brewer on a slow lap, had to regather. And boy, he sure did.
Yeah,
that's on lap number 7. He jumps to P2.
Yeah, and I have to say that his tires, he probably didn't get the best out of them because he was following her for a couple laps. So there's probably more there. We'll see what he can turn this time around. But man, shot him right to P2 behind Abel. No surprise there. I just, he should have a good weekend here coming. I think IndyCar experience and then back in Indy Next was the key for him.
This is obviously a tough place to pull passes off, but I also think, Davey, if you're a little off pace like Lindsay was, this is also got to be a very tough racetrack to get out of the way.
Yeah,
and eat the drivers behind you.
So just watch her go down through. I watched him through Charlotte, through turns. Well, actually 1, 2, 3, 4 down into Charlotte's Web, and he really had a lot of speed. On the exit of the corner, I thought he was going to pass her right off, but then it all kind of equalized. She was able to keep ahead of him going down into that next corner into turn 8, 9, and he had to wait and didn't get by her until after turn 11. So it held him up quite a bit, and that tells you he had quite a bit more speed than her right now. She is 1 minute 18 is her, minute 18 is her fastest, where once he got by her, he went 5 seconds a lap, 5 seconds quicker than she did. So that tells you how easy it was for him to be held up by her.
Appreciate all the folks joining us not only on the racetrack, but on the IndyCar Radio Network, Sirius XM, maybe on the IndyCar app. Also those watching on Indy Live, watching the live moving pictures. You're seeing Nolan Aller head on to the front straightaway. He's one of our rookie drivers. He sits 16th quick right now in that number 11 car for HMD. As for Aller, he came home with a 14th place finish at St. Pete. Let's go ahead and run you through The full timing of scoring is, again, we're about a third of the way, a little over a third of the way through this first practice session. Jacob Abel is fastest at a minute 13.1. Nolan Siegel and Reese Gold sit second and third, although here comes Nolan Siegel. Davey, we'll give you that order in just a minute because Siegel is finding some speed. He just shot to the top and cleared Jacob Abel by about 2 to 3 tenths of a second.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was going to lay some good laps down. I just feel like I said, continue to say that this is probably going to be a good weekend for him. First one in the 112 bracket, turned to 112.895. Over Abel at second at 113.125. So that's a big spread, really, between first and second. And so Siegel, he's on a roll. He's got confidence. He's going to make it happen. And now Rowe just goes in front of him. So Rowe's getting some good laps in at 112.87. Didn't beat him by much, but he's the fastest on the track so far. As we see, boy, a big, huge lockup by Jack Miller down into Charlotte's Web. Locked that left front up. Car got pretty squirrely, and he gathered up. He's obviously he's not going to get a good lap this time. Finds himself right now in that 19th position. So Jack Miller with maybe some brake bias issues going on right now.
I mean, you're carrying a ton of speed and going downhill. You got gravity, the wind at your back end down to turn 5. That's not an easy.
It's not easy because it's really blind because you're going uphill before you go downhill into the braking zone. And those braking zone, you gotta sample him and figure. We're watching him go through turn 1, shows a little replay. I don't know if something happened there. The tire. I think that he may have too much front brake bias. Something they're gonna have to check is down in turn 1, it locked it up. Down in Charlotte's Web, it locked it up. And what happens when it locks that front tire up? You just can't turn it. You can't get the car slowed down properly. Yeah, he's gonna come right into pit lane. There's obviously some brake bias issues that they need to look at that car. And, nothing. Hey, when the brakes aren't good like that, Nick, you're just along for the ride because there's nothing that you could do to prevent that from the front tires locking up. So it just seems to be a little bit too much front bias in that car.
Jack Miller right now 18th, make that 19th fastest at a minute 15.44. So he's about a good 2.5 seconds slower than the fastest driver, who is James Rowe for Andretti Global. Rowe at the top at a minute 12.87. Then it's Siegel at a minute 12.89. Jacob Abel is third. Reese Gold is fourth. The Brazilian rookie Caio Colette is fifth quick. Jamie Chadwick showing some good speed. She's up to sixth. Josh Pearson is seventh. Louis Foster is eighth. Bryce Aaron for Andretti Global is ninth. Christian Vogel, we're watching navigate the Alabama roller coaster and head uphill. He sits 10th quick right now, the veteran from Louisiana. Yuban Sunramurthy is 11th quick. Jonathan Brown, he sits on pit lane 12th fastest. Miles Rowe is 13th. Michael D'Orlando is 14th fastest. All of these drivers, Sunramurthy, Brown, Rowe, and D'Orlando, are in the minute 14 portion on the stopwatch. Salvador de Alba Jr., the driver from Mexico, sits 15th fastest for Andretti Cape. Josh Mason is 16th. 17th is Nolan Allard. 18th is Niels Colin. 19th is Jack Miller, who brought that bright blue car to pit lane moments ago. So we see Michael D'Orlando doing a little off-roading, cutting some the grass, and we're seeing a replay, Davey, of Yuban Sunramurthy hanging the rear end of that race car out for Abel Motorsports.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a bit off Charlotte's Web, whether they're pushing off to that outside or getting loose and sliding to that grass line. That, like I said, that you really want to pick the throttle up as quick as you can to get down in turn 8 and 9, just because that is a passing opportunity. And they're just, it's practice. That's why we haven't seen the other car, the 29 car, locking the tire up, going down through that. That was actually in turn 2 and 3 that he was locking those tires up. And so anyways, you see a lot of smoke, a lot of off track right now, but that's why we have practice. That was Rowe, by the way. He's P1 on the chart.
To clean up that full field run down last couple cars. Niels Colin 18th, Jack Miller 19th, Lindsey Brewer is 20th, and unfortunately for Callum Hedge, he has not turned a lap. Michael, you talked about the issues for that car, that all-black number 17. He has not turned a lap so far, and again, we're nearing the halfway point of practice, so hate it for that young man, although I think he's out there on the racetrack. I see him making his way down the back straightaway slowly. Michael Young, did you say you have more on Callum Hedge?
He was able to get out, whatever the issue was, and I'm pretty sure it was battery. At least that's what the team at least nodded their head about. He's out there, and he's at least going to get a couple of laps in. And actually walked to the back of this very long pit lane, and both of the Cape cars sit on pit lane. The Alba And, of course, number 3 and Michael D'Orlando sit here. So does J.B. Chadwick and Bryce Aaron from the Andretti Global Camp. So a couple of cars in the back of the field getting some work at this midway point of this first practice session of the weekend at Barber Motorsports Park. Louis Foster also sits on pit lane. So some slight adjustments for these cars. We expect to see all of them back out in the next couple of minutes or so.
See Callum Hedge making his way down towards Charlotte's Web. Maybe that car still doesn't look like it's at speed. In fact, is that Jamie Chapman? That's James Rowe, all up underneath the rear wing as they head out of the corner. Hedge appears like those problems maybe not all the way solved.
Dangerously slow, actually, and he made a complete lap. So I thought maybe it's just trying to get some heat in the car, the tires, all the above. But man, he's dangerously slow right now, trying to merge in, hard to get out of the way of some of these drivers. He is definitely way off the pace right now. Matter of fact, his first lap was a minute 53. Fast times a minute 12. So that tells you how far off pace he is.
Yeah, we see Christian Bogle blitz on by as well. So for Callum Hedge, again, still has not turned a lap at speed. He had a pretty decent mid-pack run to open this season at St. Petersburg. Came home in 11th of the 21 cars. So for that young man, off to a pretty good start to the season. Now we'll see if he starts to pick it back up here in practice. Everyone chasing James Rowe still at a minute 12.875. He kind of went viral on social media here in the last week. Pretty cool helmet design that he's going to have at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, James Rowe is from Ireland with a connection with the University of Notre Dame. He's going to have a spectacularly painted up race helmet that looks like that shiny gold Notre Dame football helmet, Davey.
Yeah,
I don't know if you got a chance to see it. Very,
really
very sharp and very cool for a lot of race fans, at least in the Indiana area. Of course, down here, they like Alabama and Auburn. They're not big Notre Dame fans, but there are certainly plenty that will be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here next week, and a very cool helmet design for James.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times drivers just have their helmets that has their design, and they keep it that way. But I think it's always pretty cool when the driver steps out, does a special edition helmet. Also makes it a little bit valuable as well. And so I'm sure that the Purdue appreciates that and just give it a little bit of play for the Fighting Irish.
So the top 3 here in practice at Barber Motorsports Park, the Indy X5 Firestone, is James Rowe, Nolan Siegel, and Jacob Abel, who came home with a second-place finish at St. Pete. And earlier today, I had a chance to talk with the driver for Abel Motorsports. Well, Jacob Abel from Abel Motorsports joins us here at Barber Motorsports Park. I know the start of the season, it feels like it was a year ago, but a good run at St. Petersburg. What was the big takeaway from that opening race?
Yeah, we knew we were going to be strong there. We were strong last year at St. Petersburg, so it was all about going in there and maximizing everything we can. We were able to top the qualifying session that we were in. We got a little bit unlucky with that, just with a couple of red flags and all of that, so put us outside the front row there. But yeah, just really wanted to make sure that we kept our nose clean and got the season off on the right foot. It almost doesn't feel like that since it was so long ago. It's hard to build any momentum from that. But yeah, we kind of went straight back to work, and it was almost straight back into the off season, full focus on this race. I've been making a lot of changes personally, trying to really push and prepare for this one. So I'm really looking forward to it. Last year, unfortunately, we didn't have a super good race here. We had a good race at St. Pete and then came to Barber and struggled a little bit. So, we're making sure that's not going to happen again, and we're really ready for it and really prepared.
Admittedly, that situation last year kind of out of your control. I think most people, watching that situation saw you get pushed off the racetrack. How frustrating was that because of how good you started the season last year?
Yeah, it was frustrating, but honestly, I think it was in our control. We shouldn't have qualified where we qualified. We shouldn't have been back there. Had to work through the field in a track that's extremely hard to pass on. So yeah, looking back at it, I do take a little bit of responsibility for it. Obviously, the incident is what the incident was, but, I think looking back at it, obviously the things that were in our control were how we were able to qualify and all of that. And we kind of screwed that up last year. So, really making sure we don't do that again and staying on top of everything and really looking forward to having a good weekend. We had a really strong test here in the off season. We're able to top the times there. So definitely, up from where we were last year. So yeah, just trying to keep our nose clean and have a good race.
You mentioned the new qualifying format, just one race, in the books in terms of using it at St. Petersburg, but do you like it? Because I know with 21 cars out there, if we were to just throw everybody out there, I imagine getting a clean lap would be tough.
Yeah, for sure. Big props to the series for listening to us drivers and making a change. It's going to be really hard to get something that everybody thinks is perfect, but I think they've done a really good job with it. I definitely prefer it to the qualifying format of last year. I think this year, yeah, maybe you get unlucky, have some really strong drivers in your group, but at the end of the day, you should be able to get a lap, so you should be able to, show what you're capable of. I think last year, it got to a point where it was really hard to even get a lap. So I think this year it's good, and I think you're able to get a lap in and show what you're capable of. And if you have a fast car, you'll be.
Final thing with such a large field size is minimizing mistakes and making sure that you're not throwing away points as much as going out and scoring. Just as important when you're trying to chase a championship like you are.
Yeah, it's massive. I think year after year, the series is growing, which is fantastic. It's awesome for the series. It's awesome for us drivers. It's a really a series that prepares us for IndyCar now. And with so many drivers, it does, punish your mistakes a lot more than, the days of having, less than 10 cars in the series. So, yeah, I think that's definitely something that the drivers have to keep in mind, is the amount of cars in the field and also the limited amount of rounds. Each round, each weekend is a single round weekend. Gone are the days of double and triple headers, basically every single weekend. So it really emphasizes the focus on that one race and making sure you're consistent, making sure you're maximizing that race on Sunday.
Appreciate the time from Jacob Abel a bit earlier today at the Media Center here at Barber Motorsports Park. That young man sits third quick right now. That new qualifying format that we talked about that debuted at St. Petersburg. It'll be back tomorrow in the next by Firestone. 12 minutes of track time allotted to each qualifying group, basically splitting the field in half. And the driver that comes out with the fastest lap from either group, Davey, sets the inside of rows 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And I think it's a nice kind of problem to have when you get 21 cars to split them up.
No.
I found it very exciting in St. Pete.
Yeah, very good. And I think, it's something different, and put them in groups like that. I think the track conditions are the same for each group. That everybody's going to get clean track because there's 10 in one group because we have 21. Yeah, 10 in one group, 11 in the next group. Plenty of track space to get the ultimate lap in. And we're using the same amount of time as we would have qualifying. So I think that's a good opportunity, good way to do it.
Watching Kyle Clint, Lindsey Brewer heading down the front straightaway into turn number 1 for Lindsey. She is 21st fastest as Callum Edge has found some speed. Talked to Lindsey a little bit in the preseason. She's just trying to get a wrangle on these race cars because, Davey, no power steering in the Indy cars or Indy Next machines. These are handfuls to drive. And she said she spent a lot of time in the gym trying to get that upper body strength. I know all these drivers have to focus on that because these things, especially over the course of a long race, are not easy to drive.
Yeah, as you said, they do not have power steering. One of the few cars in any motorsports that do not have power steering. And it's physical, very, very physical. And these tracks, the load that they get when you do these elevation changes, especially, it's hard to turn. I mean, it's really hard to for example, we used to run at Sears Point, going up that turn 1, that left-hander going up the hill. It was almost impossible. You had to turn early because once you got it turned and you hit that, you loaded that car. That was about all you had. It's about all you could do. So very difficult to do. And this track here is not going to be any favorite for her because of so many elevation changes, so much physical strength around this course. It's going to be difficult for her, but she's giving it a shot. She's trying all she can. She's doing what it takes. And you have to be an athlete. There's no question about it when you come to this level.
Watching Jonathan Brown chase after Michael D'Orlando as they left the Charlotte's Web portion of the racetrack. Jonathan Brown thought he had a very quiet and efficient St. Petersburg race. Came home with a 6th place finish. He's a newcomer to the series from Dublin, Ireland. Spent 2022 and 2023 with Turn 3 Motorsports. And before we talk more about him, we've got issues on the racetrack, Davey. That is Louis Foster.
Yeah.
He's probably a couple hundred yards from the entrance to pit lane. Yeah, turn 15. That car has come to a stop.
Good news is it is a red flag. He's in an unsafe place, but where the traffic and the cars are going to come around him, he got to the inside of the track, so he's not in any harm, but can't stay there, obviously. He came close to making the pit lane, but just didn't have quite enough momentum to get in there. Obviously, shut off. We'll find out what the issues are later.
That's going to bring out the red flag. Aaron Likens displays it to the field. They will all head to pit lane, and the AMR safety crew, once they are safely able to get on the racetrack, will tow that car back to pit lane. As for Louis Foster, 8th quick right now in the practice session at a minute 13.673. Haven't seen a ton of change over timing and scoring in the last, I don't know, Davey, 5, 10, 15 minutes. I would assume probably means, correct me if I'm wrong, working on race runs where maybe they've knocked the shine off the tires and now they're trying to establish some rhythm and make sure those cars aren't just good for one lap, but good for 20, 30 of the course of a race.
That's what it is. Right now, the fast, I should say, is wore off the tires. They're in race mode now. The tires, obviously, Firestone does a great job on tires, but they're best when they're 2, 3, 4 laps old. Once it gets to that point, you get heat and start getting heat cycles in them, they start falling off on speed. And so it's more race conditions. So if anybody, I'm not exactly sure. I have to look at what their tire allotments are for this weekend. I doubt that they'll put another new setup for this session. They'll wait till tomorrow, try to get set up for qualifying and burn through some. So right now, you won't see the fast times just because of the tire wear they have.
He comes in 19 points behind championship leader Nolan Siegel. Jacob Abel sits second. We're talking about Louis Foster, who is trying to find a way to get that car back to pit lane so Andretti Global can take a look at it. Davey, all right, when your car comes to a stop on the racetrack and they tow you back to pit lane, what are the first things once the crew members have a chance to pour over the race car? What are they looking at?
Well, first of all, it looks like he's going to have to get out of the car.
Yeah,
so
that's not good.
What that means right there potentially is he can't get the car out of gear. Sometimes he can't just roll them off because the car's stuck in gear. When it's shut off, it needs power to activate all the activators and then switches and stuff in the car to get it out of gear. I'm just assuming that could be what's wrong with it. Maybe he just came to a stop. He had no contact. But when everything's shut off and there's no power, you really can't do anything. If it's locked in gear, it's locked in gear. I'm assuming that has to be the issue why they're going to have to lift the car up to take it in the pit lane.
So, again, red flag conditions here at Barber Motorsports Park for the Indy NXT by Firestone. One of our championship contenders, Louis Foster, has had mechanical issues out on the racetrack that has sent the entire field to pit lane. The clock continues to run as we've got just a little over 10 minutes left in this practice session. Want to get the opportunity to bring on, while we have a red flag, Mark Janes, who's going to guide us through the first NTT IndyCar Series practice session of the weekend. And Mark, there's lots of off-track stuff.
Whatever could you mean?
You and Davey will touch on. We'll focus at least on the last time we saw IndyCar in action, and that was a masterful performance by Scott Dixon, winning his 57th career IndyCar race at Long Beach 1 week ago.
I mean, you'd think that in the previous 56, he would have raised the bar about as high as it could be raised, but he had that entire paddock scratching their head, wondering how that he did it. And you and I spent some time during the week addressing the level of trust and the relationship that exists between he and Mike Hull. And quite frankly, you and I were kind of picking each other's brains and wondering, okay, in all forms of motorsports, has there ever been a pairing that has been together as long as those two have been together now? And has been as successful as they've been. And I just, nothing could come to mind. I mean, if you look at the NASCAR world, Ray Evernham and Jeff Gordon, comparatively speaking, weren't together very long, not nearly as long as these two have been together. Chad Knaus, Jimmy Johnson, another pairing, Dale Inman, Richard Petty. And there have been others over the years, certainly in open wheel racing, but what they did was nothing short of spectacular. And it adds another chapter, I think, as I posted on social media after the race, to an already impressive legacy for sure. We'll recap that, the Long Beach weekend, talk about some other things, as you mentioned, going on off the track, and start to get ready for the month of May, the most wonderful time of the year for all of us, for sure. Look forward to it, Nick. Thank you.
It's a weird time of year. Lots of controversy off the track, and we've got the biggest race of the year just around the corner, so plenty to talk about. And Davey, as we kind of put a bow on that, I saw some stats thrown around the last 5 races. I think motorsport.com, my ice, was the first one that pointed this out. The last 5 wins for Scott Dixon came from starting 8th, 11th, 16th, 15th, and 14th on the grid. He and Mike Hull flat out have been outsmarting people as of late.
Yeah, Mike Hull, when it comes to strategy, he's definitely, I think, the best in the business, and he's done a great job. There's some great strategists out there that we could say that about, but he is definitely one of them that really knows it. And Scott, there's nobody better on saving fuel and making speed. He does it better than anybody out there, I have to say. Watching what he did in Long Beach, to where in the slow areas of the track where you could not pass, he held up Colton or Newgarden or whoever was behind him. He held them up. They were right on the back of his car, like ready to strike. But when it came time to a passing zone or a straightaway, Scott would take off like a rocket and not allow them to have enough speed to get up beside him. Get back to the slow zone again, back to the same thing, going so slow, just saving that fuel, just did it masterfully. They caught up to him quick, but once they caught up to him, they couldn't do anything with him. And Scott did say, yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking. You know, there's like 17 laps left, and, and I'm saving fuel. They have 10-lap tires newer than I do. They're full rich. They can go for it. So it was a bit nerve-wracking, but he didn't look like there was any nerves whatsoever from our side, did it, Nick? I mean, he just drove the perfect race, and then Colton actually got into the back of Newgarden on the hairpin. That allowed Scott to really create another 10, 15 car length lead, so it gave him a little bit of a break for a while, but just a masterful job by Dixon.
I didn't think there was any way Scott Dixon could hold those guys off with as much fuel as he was saving and as quickly as they were catching him there in the closing laps, but then the checkered flag flew, and I thought, well, of course they didn't get him.
Yeah.
It's Scott Dixon. He's one of the all-time greats.
And remember this, the pit window really was shown on my calculations to pit between 27 and 33. That was like, you know, safe at 27, you could run rich. You go up to 30, you're gonna have to save some fuel. 33, you're gonna have to save a lot. No, he went to 35.
Yeah.
He went to 35. So, and that's what he ran the last segment too, 35 laps. So that means he had to save a massive amount of fuel to where the competitors behind him had 10 extra laps of fuel than he did. So, man, he's remarkable. And by the way, that's only 10 back from AJ Foyt, the all-time winningest IndyCar driver at 67. Scott Dixon's at 57. I thought, well, there's no way AJ ever get caught.
It's a conversation we're going to be having in the next couple of years, isn't it?
And that's right. And Scott Dixon, by the way, he's won 20 consecutive years. He's won a race in the IndyCar series. 20 consecutive. How long is he going to do this? At this rate, he has a long. I mean, he's still winning. I mean, he's the elder of the sport, the veteran. But I assure you, all these young kids and these rookies, you definitely have to watch what that team and Scott Dixon and his style does it. The best thing I like about Scott Dixon, I mean, he's a very famous guy, very popular, has done well. But he can walk through most airports, or he can go to most places. He's really low key. He's not a flashy. He doesn't try to get out in front of the media and make a big deal out of himself. He's just a low key guy. He can go most places. People don't even recognize him, Nick, and he's setting records right and left in our sport. So, class family, class guy. Knew his dad, his mother. I mean, just really good people. You can't help but to wish him continued success because he's such a good guy.
And a long, long time ago, he was a graduate of this series.
That's right. Yeah.
It seems like 100 years ago, but it's pretty impressive. More on Scott Dixon and all the IndyCar drivers. Again, coming up 20 minutes after this Indy Next practice session ends. That is 3:40 Eastern Time, 2:40 local time here in Birmingham. As for Indy Next, we're putting the finishing touches on their first practice session. Under 5 minutes to go. Let's check in with Michael Young on pit lane.
Now, Louis Foster's car just made its way down pit lane and back to the paddock area. Obviously not a way you want to end a practice session, but hopefully you at least had an answer on the issue with your car.
Yeah, hopefully. It seems to be electronic, which is one of the most annoying issues to have. It's very, very hard to diagnose, but you know, at least we've got practice 2 tomorrow, so you've got a whole lot to do and a bit of tomorrow morning for the boys to try and figure out what's wrong with it. Bit of a shame, but it's a track we've been to many times, so I'm not too worried. They'll fix it.
Not a fun year last year, if I remember correctly, a little dust up in the turns, but this year, with the podium finish and the season opener, the confidence you have in this team, this car, and getting a good result on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were pretty quick here last year. We just struggled to get pole last year here, but we were fast. We had a good car. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And we're really trying to build our pace from St. Pete and see what we can do.
Great night tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Louis Foster, guys. Electrical gremlins put him out of this practice session.
Maybe why do you think he described those electrical issues as annoying?
Yeah.
I imagine it has to be.
Yeah, they really are. You know, I'm going to jump over to the same situation that Ferrucci's had for several races. The test at Indy goes into Long Beach with the same problems. And these, when you look at these race cars and see how many wires, what the electrical harness in these cars, it's just amazing. I mean, every single thing has some sort of power going to it, whether it's measuring something for the data or whether it's actually doing something like shifting, helping, you know, with the shift activators. And so when one thing goes wrong, it's hard to find. They're massive, big harnesses, and as a driver, I know nothing about it, so I'm used to having that one switch. It turns it on or off, and that's it. And so with these cars in today's world and all the technology, it's very difficult, but it is annoying for a lot of people to track down what actually, because it could be something that has nothing to do with the gearbox and it's not shifting and getting out of gear. It could be somewhere completely different.
You take the rear engine cowling off and look at all the suspension pieces and everything looks fine.
Right, yeah,
the race car,
that's right. Like everything mechanically we're good, but now what wire, where's that wire broken, what needs to be changed? And by the way, these harnesses, If you have to change a full harness, it's not an easy task. They're inside the tub of these race cars. They're just not on the outside. It's like almost taking the car apart to get all the wiring harnesses through all the holes and the spots that they need to go. So it's not easy.
Under 2 minutes to go here in practice for the second race of the 2024 season for Indy Next by Firestone. And Jacob Abel has found even more speed. New driver at the top of the charts, and he cleared the entire field by a margin. A minute 12.390. The quick lap now for the driver for Abel Motorsports, and that is almost a half a second faster. It's half a second faster than everybody but James Rose. It's at a minute 12.852. James continues to push on the racetrack. In fact, we see him heading out of the front straightaway right now as he will blitz underneath the flag stand here at Barber Motorsports Park with just 90 seconds to go. But that's a great lap for Jacob Abel, Davey. Nobody in the neighborhood right now. So right here at the end of practice, this is when I would assume you want to show a little bit of speed.
That's right. You know, I'm surprised. I don't know if they put new tires on or they didn't, but usually at the end of the runs, you don't see the big numbers because they don't put the new tires on and they're on 4 tires. But he doesn't have a lot of laps. In the day, what is it, 18 laps, right? Rowe has 21, Siegel has 18. They're all in that same area, but it seems like the good or where you get really good speed off the tires aren't there.
He's got to be on new tires because he just reset the fastest lap.
Oh, yeah,
at a minute
1:11. Wow.
Minute 12.200. So yeah, he is flirting with a minute 11, and now he is 0.6 clear of the field. And we watch him haul the mail into turns 1 and 2. It's a black and white race car with some red accents for his father's own team, Abel Motorsports. He crests the hill, hammers that accelerator all the way down to Charlotte's Web. It's that downhill portion of the racetrack, Davey. Flick of the wrist of the steering wheel. Don't see any lockup. He's getting after it here at the end of practice.
He looks like another really good lap. Yeah, really good lap.
As we watch Jacob Abel, let's go to pit lane. Michael Young under 20 seconds here in practice. Michael?
Oh, it's always fun to patrol pit lane and get comments from chief mechanics and race strategists. It's always a good time. But I was told no new tires for Jacob Abel. Those are what he started the session with.
All right, so tip the cap to do that on used tires. Pretty impressive. And James Rowe has taken a shot. He's found his fastest lap here as the checkered flag is out. He's improved to a minute 12.514. And Jacob Abel, he got under a minute 12, Davey, by the slimmest of margins. How about a minute 11.999? Jacob Abel. Unless anybody's got anything for him, I'll be shocked. That's a heck of a lap at the end of practice.
What a great lap. We knew he was flirting with it, and we watched him. You know, we covered him live around there, and he just looked flawless. And wow, I mean, when you say barely, you can't. Yeah, that's barely a 1:11, but he got it done.
It is 1/1000th of a second clear of a minute 12. Again, a minute 11.999 for Jacob Abel as he will pull that car onto pit lane just to the left of the flag stand. Aaron Likens displaying the checkered flag. We see Michael Young looking over that black and white race car. I'm sure he's going to get a chance to chat with Jacob after he hops out of that race car. So here's how they end up in practice. We'll go from the rear of the field. Lindsey Brewer ends up 21st fastest. Niels Colin was 20th. 19th was Callum Hedge. He only turned 15 laps. They had some issues, but he got out there and turned the lap at a minute 14.83. Nolan Aller ends up 18th. 17th was Josh Mason. Salvador de Alba Jr. was 16th fastest. Louis Foster, who had those electrical gremlins, plummeted to 15th quick. His fast lap was a minute 13.673. Jack Miller was 14th fastest. 13th was Jonathan Brown. 12th was Christian Bogle. Miles Rowe ended the session 11th fastest. Yuvan Sundaramurthy, final driver of the top 10. Kaio Collette was 9th fastest. Michael D'Orlando ends up 8th. 7th was Reese Gold. Jamie Chadwick, didn't talk a whole lot about her, but she's got some pace this weekend. She was 6th fastest for Andretti Global. Josh Pearson, good run for him for HMD. He ends up 5th fastest at a minute 13.1. Bryce Aaron for Andretti Global, he found some speed right at the end of the session. He ends up 4th. Nolan Siegel was 3rd. James Rowe was 2nd, and the fastest man here in Birmingham is standing by. It's Jacob Abel. He's with Michael Young.
It's early in the weekend, Jacob. Do you play cards?
No, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, when you have 4 aces, you're not supposed to smile and let everybody know how good your hand is. What a race car you have thus far. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Huge shout out to all the Abel Motorsports guys. Basically, after St. Peter was the start of another off season for us. last year St. Pete went really well, and then Barber not so much. So this year St. Pete went well. We're going to try and make, Barber go well too. So yeah, a lot of work the past 6 weeks to really keep in it. And yeah, I'm super, super proud of everyone, and we just worked through everything really well there.
We were debating on
You guys ready to get this season started?
Yeah. Cannot wait.
Let's go. Indy Next by Firestone. It's ready to go for a new racing season. We're green again. Indy Next by Firestone. Time to go. And he might be 2 for 1. Foster gets turned around. What a move. Side by side, 3 wide, heading down to the chicane. He's cutting into it. Here he comes. It is tight in this section. Can he hang on to it? Indy Next is now.